Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. So can you hear me clearly?
Now I can, yeah. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. Seems there is a delay.
Sorry. No.
Can we reconnect maybe?
Yeah.
I will refresh the page, okay? Just a second.
I tried to switch. Do you have the Teams?
Teams.
I can switch to.
Ma-
Yes, MS Teams.
Maybe now
Maybe
it's
we
fine.
switch to the.
I think now is better, like because I refreshed the page, so it now seems better connection.
Okay, seems better.
Yeah.
So okay. If no issue, I think we can start. So first, let me introduce myself. So my name is Freddy Yang. So I'm from EPAM, China.
Nice.
So today we are going to have a technical interview with you. So we're mainly focused on the JavaScript. Also, we'll cover the Angular framework. Sure. So are you okay with that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so please note this session will be automatically recorded. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Then let's share the draft agenda for this session. So at the beginning, you will have a few minutes to introduce yourself and your work experience. Then we'll move to the main part. In this section, we are going to discuss some topics related to the JavaScript, and also cover the Angular framework. Okay. Then we'll also cover some soft skills as well. Okay, so at last there'll be the QA section. So if you have any concerns, you can raise your questions.
Sure.
So that's the agenda for this session. So if no objections, so let's start. So first, please give a short introduction for yourself and your work experience, please.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Daniel Baunov. I've been a professional web developer for about 7 or 8 years now. Mostly working for startups and scale-ups, product companies, non-outsourced ones, right? Mainly my main framework is Angular, and mostly front-end, but also I've been developing some backend stuff on Node.js, so like Nest.js framework, right? So I've been studying in UK before I started my development career, my web developer career. I love what I'm doing. A lot of the times I also build side projects, like in full stack JavaScript, TypeScript, right? So if you have any questions, please let me know. Is connection all right, by the way?
Okay, can you but yeah, so it seems the voice is broken sometimes. I only can hear part of it.
Maybe we can switch to
So
Google
now
Meet.
can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, but there is a delay. Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe we can try. I think maybe we can just turn off the video. Yeah, maybe better.
Let's try.
So
How's now?
yeah, we can just turn off the video. Okay, maybe. Yeah, now seems better. Okay.
Okay. So I'll start
Okay.
from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm Daniel. I'm professional web developer for around 7 or 8 years. Mostly experienced in front end and Angular, but also sometimes do full stack development in Node.js and Nest.js framework. And also love building side projects, like full stack side projects in TypeScript. And mostly I've been working for different like startups and scale-ups, so product companies, mainly developing some dashboards like for businesses, like both for customers and for businesses, B2B, B2C. Before I started web developer career, I used to study in UK, like computer science degree, and also before that I've been using Flash a lot, like so I'd say my overall development experience is around 10 years. If we count Flash, like Flash ActionScript, but since this technology is dead, so like we might not count it. So that's about it.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so can you give a few description for your current project? So what kind of the technical stacks we are using?
You mean the last one? Yeah.
Yes, the recent project which you have working on.
Yeah, sure. So it's Angular on the front end, like the most recent version, and on the back end it's Google Cloud, and Cloud Functions, Firebase, like and related services. And also there is one part in Nest.js. Yeah.
Okay. So you use almost the latest Angular version, right?
Yeah, I think most of the time it's either latest or close to latest.
Okay, cool. Okay, then let's move to the next part. So we're going to first discuss some topic regarding to the JavaScript. Okay. So the first questions from my side is, does JavaScript pass parameters by value or by reference?
Okay, so primitive types are passed by value, and like objects, functions, and like non-primitive types are passed by reference.
So how about the parameters in the function? So is the parameters?
So depends what parameters, right? So.
Yes. So for example, I switch to the code editor. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So for example, you have the here just function. So here I have parameters for item, right? For this function, right? So is this the parameters passed by value or reference?
So depends what type item is. Like if it is a primitive type, it's by value. If it's non-primitive type, it's by reference. So if you pass, like if item is an array, an object, a function, or something like this, it's by reference.
So you mean if the item is the array, so it will be referenced by, it will be passed by reference. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's move to the next one. So have you ever heard of the item for the function programming?
Have I ever heard of functional programming?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you know it, the item called function program, so how it is different with the object-oriented programming? Can you explain the main difference between these two?
So in functional programming, like function is a first-class object, meaning that it can be passed by passed as parameter and returned from other functions, right? So this is like JavaScript can be both object-oriented and functional, right? And so in functional programming, you mainly work with pure functions. Pure functions is like functions that doesn't have side effects, so it doesn't mutate arguments or basically just takes and returns something. And side effects are mostly isolated in such programs, like written in functional style. Something like this. Should I add anything on top?
That's fine. So, what's the benefit to use the function programming?
So it's easier to debug, right? Like you have, like, since side effects are isolated, like like the flow is more clear, right? So it's just a combination of different functions together as a pipeline, and like objects do not mutate when you do not expect it, right? And some, yeah, I think there's something like this. It's more declarative also, a bit, like.
Okay, cool. Get your answer. So now can you explain what's the event loop in the JavaScript?
Event loop, okay.
Event loop, yes.
Yeah, right. So this is a mechanism to handle asynchronous tasks in V8 browsers and Node.js. So when something asynchronous happens, it pushes this task to the queue, and once current thread, like the main thread, is so it pushes it to the queue, and then event loop handles, like in a separate thread, this task, and when the result is ready, it puts it back to the main thread, like the result.
Okay. Thanks. So then let's Let's also switch. Let me first switch to the code editor. So I'll try to share a piece of code. So here you can say I have a array, right? Edge. So can you try to implement in different way to find a unique item in this array? Yeah. So you can say it has some duplicate value, right?
All right.
So next 26. Yeah. So how do you going to implement to find the unique value?
So the simplest way is like this, right? So set is used to like basically duplicate stuff, and then you just pass it to the array from, and we will get unique values. So do you want some other implementation? I'm not sure. Like basically it would be all depending on the set, whatever I do.
Yeah. So any other solution? So except set. So
like I think solutions without set won't be as efficient. Like I could use like records, like I don't know, like I could also use object, right, to store. So to store whether to loops, so I would loop through, right, and set the key as this number, and then object.keys, right, to ages, object.keys.obj, right. So it would like should I write it down, or like is explanation enough? Sorry, hello? Hello? Freddy? I think I cannot hear you. But I cannot hear you. Hello? Still cannot hear.
No.
Oh, now I can. Now I can hear.
So you,
hello?
I can hear you.
Okay. Now I can, I think, as well.
So you cannot, right?
Sorry? Say again?
Okay, now, sorry, now you can hear me, right?
Yeah, like, but
so
it's...
now you can hear me clearly. Okay.
So, did you understand my last solution like that I proposed?
Yeah, maybe can you just try to do just give some more detailed information for your second solution, which use the object?
Okay, so since object keys are unique, I would just loop through all the edges and set like where the key is age and value is age as well. So, and actually I would use object.values because yeah, if I use object.keys it would be stringified. So I loop through, I set the like key 26 equals 26, 27, and it would be just unique values.
Okay, cool. I see your point. Yeah, now it's clear.
Any other solution you want from me, or like, because I don't think other solutions would be efficient.
Yeah, it's fine. You just mentioned two solutions. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then let's to the next one. I will also share a piece of code. So you should see the code I pasted in the code editor. So what's the value for A and B if I execute this function?
Okay, so var, as I remember, var is like is not block scoped. So if we do not, okay, so this is a self-called function, right? And so B, I think it would give us 5 still, because it's like var would well, if it was let or const, I would definitely say like undefined, like even reference error. Like, well, yeah, but var, yeah, I think also undefined actually, like, because even though var is like declaring, but it won't be on the top level declaration. So
so which one is undefined? You mean A or B?
Okay, I see B, because B is not like var. Or okay, B is not undefined. B would be checked on the window scope, and A would be undefined. So B would be.
And why?
Sorry.
Why? Can you give? Can you explain why A is defined?
Why A is undefined? Because because it's declared within a scoped function, right? So it's out of the scope of the window. So it's and B is without strict mode. B is set on a window object, like on the top level object, and A is scoped to the function.
Okay, I see a point. Okay. Okay, and let's to the next one. I also try to share a piece of code. So here I need your help to create a native function. which will be which is going to apply to the string object. That's the reverse function. For example, the string ABCD, if you call the reverse function, it should return the DCABA. So how do you going to implement?
So it should be callable from a string itself, like as a method of the string, or?
Yeah, so we just want some kind of native method for general string object.
Okay, so we need to set it on the prototype. Okay, so I haven't worked with prototypes for a while, but so okay. So this.
Can you just try to share your implementation in the code editor?
Yes, that I'm typing here. Can you see? String.prototype.reverse equals function.
Oh, okay, I can say it. Yes. Okay.
So and then well. Okay. So I can I use array.reverse actually? Because array has a reverse method. Should I use it or implement like array reverse? Because I could do simply return like this dot split dot reverse and without this. I mean, since array has it, is it okay if I use it?
Yes, so in general, I didn't limit what kind of the method you can use. We just want to the result to have a general reverse function. So that's is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. This is then without the for loop or the for. So it's more concise and clean. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So,
okay. Then yeah. Then let's move on. So I'm also going to share some piece of code. So you can say here I share a function called test. So the function have several statements. So when I execute this test function, what should be the output? So because inside of the test function, I have to consider log A and the function. So
Okay, so I guess that's about hoisting. So, like, yeah, I remember, right? Like, var is hoisted to the top of the scope, and the function is like same because it's function. What do we call it? Function declaration, right? Not function assignment. So it's same as like behaves same as var in this case. So if we so a would be 1, like, so it would output 1 and 2, so without problems. Okay.
Okay. So let's move on. So there's a lot of questions. So what's the sorry. So in your work experience, so what kind of the EX feature you have been used rather than the net or var or error functions?
Sorry, say again, like, didn't get it.
Okay, so here my question is, so what kind of the EX6 features you have been used in your project rather than the general, the net or var or error function? Any other features you have been used or you know
You mean
some this kind of EX6 features?
ES6 features, okay. So I'm not sure if Async await is ES6 or later. Also symbols I think came in ES6, but I don't use them that often. Also like generators maybe, but also I don't use them that often because in Angular RxJS kind of solves all the like this kind of stuff that normally is solved using generators. And like except for like iterators, generators, right? Yeah, async await, generators, iterators, symbols, let const, classes, right? They also came in ES6. There were some utility methods, I think, maybe like, because I'm not sure which version they came in, like some object utility methods, like static methods on object. I can't remember them very well. Like those to implement getters and setters, I think, on the object.
Getter setters, okay.
I think for ES6 that's the main features, right? Maybe I missed something, I don't know.
Okay, good answer. Thanks. So let's move to the next. So in the JavaScript, you should know the module system, right? So what kind of the module system you have used for the JavaScript development? How do you modularize your JavaScript code?
So main ones are CommonJS and SystemJS. I think the actual like they are can be considered legacy ones. Also because recently ES modules came into place, right? So previously like we but yeah, I think most of the time we've been using System.js for importing, like loading bundles asynchronously and registering modules. And yeah, CommonJS is kind of require syntax, System.js import syntax. And yeah, like I'm not sure what should I add.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's talk about for the TypeScript. Okay. So can you list some types which available in the TypeScript?
Types, like you mean what kind of types? Like
yeah, what kind of types?
Like primitive types, for example, number string, right? Like Boolean and etc. There are like utility types, like for objects such as record. Like there are many utility types actually. Like also you can use utility types like amit or like when you want to extend some interface and omit some of the properties, like I mean, I can name quite a lot, I think. I don't know, like maybe something more specific you can ask. I don't know. So, can you specify a bit, like on this question, like what answer do you expect here?
Okay, maybe I think so. What's the
Sorry, I think connection is
unit?
Sorry, connection is breaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Say again. Okay,
so what's the? Have you ever used the unit type in the TypeScript?
Union types, yeah, of course. So it's like type something equals like T1 or T2, right? Those are the union types. So let's call it any T. Something like this, right?
Yeah. Okay. So for the TypeScript, so do you know how finally the TypeScript was compiled to the general standard JavaScript?
Sorry, how TypeScript is compiled? You asking?
Yeah. Yes. So how do you configure the compiling?
Right. So using tsconfig, and so it's compiled using TypeScript compilator. I'm not sure how it works internally. Like I'm not expert in compilation, but yeah. So you define what target you wanted to be compiled into, right? So like ES something, some version of ES. So if you need to support some old systems, you would put some early version, and TypeScript would put some how we call them, like polyfills for those and so depending what version of target you want, the bundle size would also differ. And so something like this, and you can also like use type mappings. So you like output type declarations separately, and that's mainly if you publish a library or debug stuff, you would also compile mappings, type mappings. Yeah, something like this.
Okay, cool. Then let's continue. So actually, when we do the web development, so usually your application need to communicate with some third-party service or third-party web service, something like that. So usually, how this web communication was implemented. So in general, how the web application talk with each other?
Okay. So mainly it's using TCP, HTTP, right? So HTTP protocol. So you would so applications calls some domain with some HTTP method. Then some like domain name like DNS resolve happens and directs it to some specific IP address. And if it's HTTPS, it's also like handshake is required, like secure handshake. So yeah, and then when like the service receives a request, it kind of handles it and sends back. So HTTP is stateless, and so it sends back the response to the initiator, and also yeah, something like this. Maybe I missed something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got the answer. Thanks.
Thanks.
So okay, let's continue. So can you list some common web security issues? You know.
Web security issues. Some cross-site scripting, like and client-side scripting, right? So when like someone can steal like some tokens from front end, for example. So if they saved in local storage, for example, like and some SQL attacks, like SQL injections. Yeah, don't know much. Maybe just like I mean, if database is not secured enough, like there can be plenty of options how to get data from it, right? Or delete data. So
okay, so how about COIs? Do you know what it is?
Sorry, can you type how it's?
Yeah. So what is the COIs?
Of course. So it's restricting domains which can communicate with each other, right? So so cross origins, kind of, if like on the server you would set it only to the origins you trust, right?
Okay, so if your application need to talk with the third party service, but they are a different domain. So usually, how do you handle it?
So first of all, they kind of the third-party service needs to enable CORS, right? So they would need to allow your domain or any domain to talk to them, and on the front end, you would set some headers, some X cross origin or something. I don't remember exactly. So, but it's server responsibility to control, so you can't influence it on front end really.
So in this case, you need to do the implementation in the target service, right?
Yeah.
So how about if you cannot, I mean, you cannot control this the third-party service. I mean, you cannot do the change in the service. Is there any solution to fix it?
So like if target service disables, like so, I mean, if server disables CORS, like they say, like okay, only this domain can talk to me, like then there is no way to control it. If they don't have this set up, like if they allow, then like on the front end, I don't remember the specific header, but there is the header you need to set to communicate to that server.
Okay, got a point. Yeah. Okay, then let's talk about some CSS. Okay. So do you know what is the responsive design?
CSS, okay, responsive design, yeah. So it's basing its dimensions on like screen dimensions, right? So it's both should look good on mobile and on desktop, like independent on screen sizes.
Yeah, so how we do the implementation in the CSS in order to fulfill the...
Yeah. So like in simple cases, sometimes it's enough to just do with Flexbox and Grid, but in a lot of cases you need media queries for this. Right, so and using like max width, min width of the screen. And then like so put those breakpoints, and then depending on like screen size you want to show or hide something, for example, or change font sizes or whatever else.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let's continue. So my next question is, so what's the CSS priorities?
So okay, first one is element styles, like defined on the element itself. It's first priority. Second is by ID. Third is like if you like depend like so classes can override each other depending on how specific they target that element. So like two classes at the same time higher priority than one class, right? For example. And also depending on the nesting, right? So if you specify parent element and class and then child element class, that would override if you just specify a single element class. And yeah, and then by tag name is the least priority, something like this.
Okay, cool. So can you explain, so in general, how we going to implement the animation in CSS?
Animation?
Yes.
Okay, so two ways is use like transition and specify like timing, easing function, and what properties you want to transition. So that way, if you set something like some property that is transitioned to a different value, it would animate to that new value. And another way is using keyframes animation, right? So you can specify what like keyframes you have, and just use that keyframes to animate. And there are different animation methods like infinite, for example, or forward, which ends like and stops at the final keyframe. So something like this.
Okay, cool. Okay, and let's talk about some topic in the about the Angular framework. Okay. So the first one is, so what kind of the lifecycle hooks available in the Angular component?
So ng on init, like when component is initialized and first input properties came through, then ng on changes whenever input properties change, ng after content init, and like after content transclusion happened, ng after view init, after like initial view DOM initialized, and then ng after content change, или on content change, I don't remember specific, ng after view change, and ng on destroy, and ng do check. I think that's it.
Okay, so the next one is, so can you generally explain how change detection works in Angular?
So Angular monkey patches main like asynchronous things that can happen in the browser, like mouse events, keyboard events, some like XHR, I think, and yeah, a lot of things that just user-generated events as well, and then it like checks on like if some event happened in the context of component, it propagates like this change up the tree, and then depending on change detection strategy on each component, it then propagates the change down the tree and skips those that haven't changed inputs if they have on push change detection, for example. Not for example, yeah, and just propagates the change down the tree and basically updates the DOM if needed.
So if some change is triggered, which is out scope of the Angular world, so how do we notify the Angular?
So two main methods, like there is a change detection reference that you can inject in a component, and you would call either detect changes to detect changes on that specific component, and like on actually on the whole three, right? Detect changes, and the second one is mark for check, which like checks the ancestors of that component. So yeah, depending on the use case, you would call either of them, and like to run something within the zone, you can also ng zone wrap something within the zone to do the checks for something asynchronous, for example.
Okay. Cool. Let's continue. So, general, when you development applications, so somehow you need to share data between the different components. So usually, how do we achieve this in Angular way?
So most of the time we'd use services for that. Like they can be injected on either on module level or on component level. So we store like some like maybe observables over there, like and subjects, and we can share this way, or we can just use inputs and outputs. And I think other not so frequently used way is to like reference some component using viewChild or viewChildren or content children, and call some methods on them specifically, like, but that's not often used technique. In some cases we need it, so I think those are the main, probably. So services, inputs, outputs, and the references.
Okay, so yeah. So the next question is, so what's in the application? Usually we need some different kind of forms. So in Angular, we have two ways to implement the forms. That is the templates-driven forms, and another one is the reactive forms. So what's the main difference between these two?
Okay, so I mostly use reactive forms, but like in template-driven forms, you mostly bind to controls using two-way data bindings in the template, using ng model, right? And then you have some variables like properties inside your components that change with that two-way data bindings. And with reactive forms, you declare a model and like bind your controls with like form control name and the form or either form control. So you declare like form group, which is a wrapper for the form, and then bind those controls with directives to the form model. And so with the reactive approach, like form changes with like you can track all the changes with value changes, which emits an observable, right? And do all the validations like with the main model. Like you can also build it in a declarative way. Hello?
Okay. Cool. So in Angular, I think you should know the observable. So how the observable difference with the promise? Can you compare the main difference between these two?
So If I were to compare, like main one would be probably that promises only emit one value, and they always emit one value, so either rejected or resolved. While observables is kind of a stream of values, so they can either emit one, emit multiple, or never emit any value. So this is, I guess, the main difference. So it's stream over time versus postponed value, I'd say. And you can combine observables in many different ways and use various operators that much like basically they help a lot and more flexible than promises. I think that's the main thing. Depending on the scheduler type, when RxJS promises so promises are in microtasks, and I think default observable is synchronous observable, so it's handled on the main thread by default.
Mm-hmm. So the promise is able to cancel?
No. Yeah, no. I think no. Promise is not.
Okay, then how about the observable?
Yeah, they are cancelable. So as I said, yeah, promise always returns something, is a error or result, and observable might not return, and you can cancel it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's move on. So let's talk about the RxJS. So what's the hot and cold observable in the RxJS?
Right. So hot observable, it emits values from within itself. Right. It generates values inside of itself, and if you subscribe late, you would miss the initial values, and so you only get the values that come after the subscription. And with cold ones, it's like you can subscribe anytime and get the latest value. So you can achieve it is like with behavior subject, or like with share replay, or something, or replay subject, for example. So yeah, I think that's and yeah, like hot. I think hold. I'm confusing them sometimes. Like, not sure which is hot, which is cold, but the type that like recomputes inside value once you subscribe to it, right? So each subscription causes recomputation.
Okay, get the point. Yeah. So next one. So currently, how much of the coverage do you achieve for your front-end code?
Sorry, how much?
The coverage, unit test coverage for your project.
Unit test, okay. Like we rarely write unit tests, like I can say for sure. Like so coverage is normally pretty low, but like in some projects we did more unit tests, and we would only unit test some complex shared logic, or like either shared or complex, right? So it would be some NGRX maybe effects, so or reducers, and it would be maybe shared utilities. So, but we never target towards some specific coverage percentage, because maybe, yeah, okay.
So can you just write a simple unit test templates? So which kind of framework you are using
We've used Jest.
for the unit test?
Jest.
Jest, okay. So then can you just create a simple test case?
Yeah, I'm not sure I remember the syntax well, because in the last year we haven't been using unit tests, because it was more like a startup, as I said. So it was very fast-paced development. Yeah. I remember, right? So describe this should do that, something like expect. Yeah, I remember expect like this dot z to be something. I don't remember very well, like, but I know the logic behind it, right, and how it works. So you also before all, you have before all something, and set up the mocks, right? Set up mocks and initialize, and it runs before all cases. Yeah, something like this. As I said, I haven't been writing them for a while.
Okay, never mind. Okay. So now can you share some tips how to optimize the Angular applications?
So in terms of bundle size, like you can do lazy loading, right? So based on routing mainly. Then you can do caching for some API calls. So either in memory or in local storage. So it depends how often the data is changing. So you can also, in terms of performance, you would like it's recommended, and I would recommend to always use on push change detection and only rely on input changes. So also do smart dump components separation, so where like that would optimize change detection, right? And use dump components a lot, and container components would only like propagate values to the dump components and backwards. Then yeah, I like to use caching a lot, right? So whenever possible. So it's nice also that RxJS provides like share replay thing that kind of caches the last response from an observable, or like from API call or whatever. Then we can also use as like progressive web app, like and cache the assets like PWA, right? So we can cache any like static assets with that, and that way application would also work like partially at least offline, like it would load offline if needed. Yeah, something about it.
Okay, got the answer. Okay, so now do you familiar with the Node.js? Do you have such experience?
Some, yeah.
For Node.js?
Yeah, I have some experience.
So So mainly in your project, do you, what kind of which part was using Node.js?
In which project? Sorry.
So I mean, if you have the project to use Node.js, then what's the role for the Node.js play in your applications?
Oh, okay. So, for example, one of recent ones, I was doing web scraping and also like saving the results in MongoDB. So it was like performing regular scrape tasks on various websites and exposing also API to get that data from MongoDB once it's stored there. Also, I sometimes use it as a kind of proxy to third-party APIs where I want to hide API keys, like, and only communicate within this proxy, like in the so not to expose those API keys on the front end. I use it as just REST API with authentication and mainly I use MongoDB as a database in my applications. Something like this. I use Nest.js also as its main framework on the backend.
Okay, cool. So when something is wrong in your Node.js application, so usually how do you debug your Node applications?
Yeah, I would put some logger normally and maybe some integration with some, let's say, LogRocket or something like similar. And then, just using logs mainly.
So in general, how do you secure your Node.js applications?
So I think it's like security, like we can call authentication as a layer of security, right? So like some not all applications need it, right? But I would use JWT most of the time, token, and only communicate once like authenticated, and put different guards on top of that, like also as we discussed, like if possible I would configure CORS to only allow specific domains if it's relevant, right? Also some on different endpoints I would put like validators on the DTOs that come in, right? So on for example post requests I would do this class validator thing as an example to validate what data comes through. And never expose any security to either Git or whatever, like, so use environment variables for secured like for sensitive keys or other stuff.
Okay, cool. Okay, the next question is, so what is the CI/CD? So what's the difference between these two?
So it's continuous integration, continuous deployment. So as the name suggests, like continuous deployment just like deploys stuff when it's time to, like when trigger happens, and it only like deploys, like that does the deployment, and unit testing, for example, runs different jobs that are triggered using next release. and continuous integration is more like integrating those subsystems with each other, I think. I sometimes confuse this term, but from my understanding, it's about integrating front end, back end, and maybe microservices together.
So currently in your project, which CI/CD tools you are using?
So we use GitHub Actions for deploying our stuff, like for building, deploying.
So, okay, so who maintain the script for the pipeline?
All of us actually, like we just 3 developers, full stack devs, and whenever something needs to be adjusted, like whoever has time at the time, right? So as I said, it's a startup, and yeah, so we all do sometimes.
Okay. So, okay, let's move on. So my next question is, so can you explain in your idea, so what is the good code and what's the bad code?
So can be multiple measures of that, but like we can speak about solid, but maybe let's keep it simple, right? And so from my perspective, it's readable, it's concise, and so also depending on the situation, it can be performant or not performant. Like sometimes we don't care that much about performance, but it's also good to sometimes optimize things. Don't over don't try to keep things simple, so even like junior can understand what you are writing, and you shouldn't create too like you should try to keep dependency structure as flat as possible, and as one directional as possible. Also data flow should hopefully be like clear, and so we could use like CQRS patterns or something like this to split events versus actions, right? For example, like in NGRX we do. And yeah, if we talk about solid, like then one responsibility, like main thing, right? And also in inversion of control, sometimes like it's too much, like to inverse control properly in Angular. Like Angular has this dependency injection, for example, mechanism, so it's kind of dependency inversion if used with interfaces instead of classes, right? So, because we still import, most of the time we still import stuff in like the class to not to over complicate things. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's about it, like about what I think the good quality code is. And maybe if we say, right, like you like unit tests, so not good code is easy to unit test, we can say this.
Okay, got a point. Okay, so my next question is, so can you share some practice which you have implemented in order to improve the code quality?
Share some practice, like
To improve the code quality, yes.
some example or
Yeah,
well.
just in general, what kind of the criteria or the um, what kind of activity you have implemented in order to improve the code quality?
Okay,
So just now we are talking about the bad code and the good code, right? So if you find the bad code, what's the next? How do you going to improve this code quality in your project for your team?
Right. So some refactoring based on uh, mm, like it all depends on the case, but I generally split up the things. If I see too much stuff in one place, and again, if it breaks like single responsibility principle a lot, I would maybe split it up into different either utilities or classes or like injectables, right? Um,
So in which process you were review this code?
Review, like you mean refactor?
Yes.
Yeah.
So and I mean, so how frequently do you review your team's code?
So it depends on the project. So in like previous projects, it was more often, right? Like we do pull requests, we review each other's code, we suggest refactoring sometimes. Sometimes we do refactoring as we see problems. But like it's all depends on the project and how fast paced it is. Like I always try to do my best and find time to refactor if I see bad quality code, like and especially like if I come across something that is very badly written and I need to extend the functionality, first thing I would do is refactor existing one.
So this is the process for the code review. So what this is the manual process, right? This is the for manual process, that's called the code review process. So is any other practice you can to find to find existing the code quality issues? What kind of tools you may be used in order to find this issue earlier?
Yeah, so we could use, if you're talking about tools like some linting tools, or like we could use ESLint or Prettier or both, right, to maybe automatically fix some. It's not really about maybe code quality, but about formatting quality, right? Yeah, ESLint can also suggest some conventions, right, that are broken, or it can automatically fix it if you like configure, for example, Git hooks, right, on commit, on pre-commit, you would use, for example, Husky and run ESLint fix to auto-fix some of the problematic points in code. Yeah, I think that's the main tools we'd use. I mean,
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay, so almost running out of time. I think now we have finished the main part. So let's move to the last sections for the question and answer.
Can you wait 2 minutes? Sorry, I just need to go to bathroom for 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry for that. Well,
Yeah, that's fine. So okay, that's the last section, the QA. So do you have any concerns or questions?
Q&A. Well, I think that was very good interview. I liked it, and so far, like, if you know what would be the project about, like, if I get hired, that would be interesting.
Okay, so the project I didn't have any detailed information. I think for this one you can contact our TA team, so they have more specified information.
Okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah, no much questions from my side. If you have any.
Okay, so if no other questions or concerns, then I'd like to propose close this session. So thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.